Hey guys, Sasuke here, and today I'm joined with Emotional. Mo is one of the best Legends of Runeterra players to ever touch the game, an incredible coach, and one of the largest metaphys for Riftbound. How's it going, Mo?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about Lucian here. So let's just go right into it. Let's start with the battlefield choices. Why the battlefields?
Yeah. So the big thing about Lucian, I built it like a combo deck, as you saw. We'll get into. Very heavy on the combo aspect. I think it's extremely strong. And so the one thing that these colors in general lack with red and orange is card draw. There's just not a lot of card draw. All of the battlefields you see here kind of draw or at least filter. Like Candlelit Sanctum doesn't actually draw you cards. What does it lets you do is it lets you put two cards that aren't your combo pieces to the bottom. So you're getting, four cards deeper, or sorry, three cards deeper every time you activate a Candlelit Sanctum.
Makes perfect sense. All right, so I guess let's just go right into the main deck. Really, just go over kind of the core pieces. Obviously, the combo pieces as well, which I believe is Trinity Force and Skyfall of Arion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of this deck is I've been trying to find something that can beat the meta and do really well. This isn't just I don't think I can win or want to play Draven, so I want to go for a best of. I just legitimately think Lucian is a good deck that can win. So the main combo here is you get a Trinity Force equipped onto a unit, ideally your Ruin Runner. It says, when I hold, gain 1 point. And then Skyfall of Arion says your hold triggers are now your conquer triggers, and vice versa. So what lets you do is if you have both the Trinity Force and the Skyfall attached to one unit, you move up, you conquer, you get your conquer point, and then that will trigger all of your conquer abilities from the Triforce now, thanks to Skyfall. So you'll get a second point on top of that. So this is a point that can win you the game. If you're at 6, for example, you will conquer up to 7, trigger your Skyfall and Trinity Force, and then draw a point, go up to 8, and you will win the game off of it.
A couple other key pieces here. I think Yone is a very interesting piece. Kai'Sa obviously makes sense, but the Rune Runner, I think a lot of people have been saying is a little bit slow. So just go over those really quickly and why you really feel like they belong in the deck.
Yeah, so out of all three of those pieces, like I said, Kai'Sa's kind of in everything. Yone is one of those where it replaced it instead of like the piercing lights or the challengers or whatever removal spells people are playing, mostly to help with the miracle matchup where people kind of just had their Ezreal sitting back, or they would have Draven sitting back, or any kind of unit sitting back ready to attack. This kills any engine like that. It will punish a lot of people when you're on your odd mana curve. You go from 3 to 5 to 7. If you don't use any power on the first 2 turns, on the third turn when you're at 7, you immediately get to play something like a confront, and then play Yone. He'll weapon master, get to swing up instantly and kill something in the back, which will catch a lot of people off guard. And then the last thing that you said is the Ruin Runner. This card's broken. This card is just like not balanced. A lot of people think it's really slow, and the thing is like I kind of want to just jam Ruin Runner on turn 2 or turn 3 every single chance that I get. Turn 2 if you ever have to go second off of like a you know
Obelisk.
obelisk of power. But most of the time, yeah, you're just playing Ruin Runner on turn 3, and it's just like correct to do most of the time. The big thing that kind of separates this deck or makes Ruin Runner not feel slow is the addition of weapons, and mostly Trinity Force. Even if it's just like Trinity Force to Ruin Runner, move up and try and hold, that is such a good piece of tempo, because now it forces your opponent to fight the 7 might Ruin Runner without actually having any combat tricks for it. Like if you think about how do decks really try and fight big might units right now, if you look at the top 3 decks, it's like Draven. Well, if you send a really big unit somewhere, how do they fight it? Well, they're going to rebuke it or fight or flight it back or use their own weapon or something. And it's like you just get the access of punch first. They can't use rebuke on your Ruin Runner. They can't use fight or flight on your Ruin Runner. They can't like biggest fan to stop it from crashing in for a whole bunch of might on it. It's just like untouchable. If you think about things like Aurelia, it's like their biggest ways are going to be the signature spell, the Defiant Dance, to give your unit -2. But it takes Defiant Dance from being this crazy 1 energy 5 might swing to just being the +2 or +3 depending on who it's targeting buff, because your Ruin Runner can't get minused. And having that with the Skyfall and Trinity Force just makes it to where your opponent cannot interact with you. I had a game on stream into Aurelia where game 2 was just an unplayable game for my opponent, because I just played a Ruin Runner on turn 3. I equipped it with Trinity Force Skyfall. I sent it in twice, and they just couldn't do anything. And it just like kind of wins you the games. You pair that with the Relentless Pursuit, it scores you 4 points guaranteed. Anytime you have like multiple Trinity Forces on the Ruin Runner, it just becomes really disgusting.
Makes perfect sense. All right, so then very briefly, let's go over the sideboard choices. We see that there's two hex drinkers and then one in the sideboard. So I guess let's just go over that really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire sideboard here is to kind of beat Kaisa and these random yellow control decks. Your deck is really good into purple in general. It's really good into purple, like the top meta decks. But as you see at the regionals, the top meta decks will still only be like, 30, maybe 40% of the actual field, and the rest is just going to be kind of random stuff. So the thing about Lucian is it's one of those decks where like Aurora and Set 1, where you are really good into the top decks, and then your random matchups can be really volatile. So the entire sideboard is kind of based around Kaisa specifically, and then yellow control decks. So that's why there are Hex Drinkers in the main, to make it to where if you play a Hex Drinker, play a Lucian, he's at 4 might. If they want to do something like a Falling Star, they have to recycle 4 runes on turn 2, which is just not ideal for them at all. And that sets them back enough to where once you play your second unit, they can't continue to do that to you. That's the big thing about Hex Drinker that makes it really good. Obviously, it doesn't help into Cull, but it helps into everything else. All the other big pieces of removal people are playing are very power hungry, or they're just really high energy costs. So having a Hex Drinker early on your units makes it to where it extra punishes the heavy power cost early, and then makes it to where they can't actually play the high energy cost later because they just don't have the runes because they recycled so many early. So that's why you see things like the Unyielding Spirits, the Sabotage, the Hex Drinkers, and the Forerunners all in here. The deck basically just has all of that come in against all of the control decks. You take out things like the Punch First, you take out things like the Yones into these decks that just like don't really try to put up a big fight. So that's 5 pieces of cards that you bring in and take out. So into the Kaisa, for example, you take out the Yones, take out the Punch First. You just get to bring in 5 pieces of cards. It's like, okay, cool. Here's my 2 Sabotage, the 2 Unyielding Spirits, and then like a Hex Drinker. Or if it's a yellow deck, it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to take out some amount of my Ruin Runners, like probably 1 to 2, because while Ruin Runner is still good into most removal, it's really bad into Cull. And you say, okay, cool. Take those out. Again, the Punch First, Yones, that stuff. Bring in all the Forerunners, the Sabotages, and the Hex Drinkers, and be happy with that.
All right, great. Well, any other deck choices? I mean, we see what the deck looks like right now, but were there any other cards that you were like, I'm not sure I really want this in the deck that you'd be considering taking out?
Yeah, the right now, after this weekend, I actually had a really good run day 1. I kind of crushed it day 1. Day 2 fell off the rails a little bit, but happens, it happens a little bit. So the only things I would really change is I changed the Hex Drinkers for Warmogs, because I realized that Zon Warrens is actually just it's good for you when you're trying to find your combo pieces, right? But it is very good for a lot of the decks, the good decks in the meta, because a lot of the good decks are on these like Miracle Shells, which just means like they're playing the Ezreals, Scrap Heaps, stuff like that, trying to churn through their decks. So just giving them more power or more Zons triggers can be really rough. And then on top of that, I took out the Yones for more Piercing Light. Mid-range Draven does not have an answer to Piercing Light. It forces them to not play Draven on turn 2. They can't just go play a 2-drop on 1, Draven on 2. Because if they do that and you Piercing Light them, you effectively double time walk to them, and then the game is just done. Like, they don't have the time. They don't have the tempo to come back from that. And then again, because I'm taking out the Zon Warrens, I still need some form of draw. So I took out the 2 Hex Drinkers and put in 2 Warmogs and kind of do the thing that the, Annie did in set 1, where you take out your Scrap Heaps after game 1. Fiora does right now in set 2, where it's like you play Warmogs and then you swapped out Zon Warrens for the Monastery of Hirana. So that way you have this draw engine that kind of only you get to use, where if you have the Warmogs, you equip it to something, your Lucian, you move up, you conquer, you buff the Lucian, spend the buff to draw a card, bring your Lucian back to keep him safe.
I'm so glad we got to speak to you. Any quick shout outs you want to give before we head out?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, like, shout out to my Metafy, shout out to my boot camp that I have going on. I do a boot camp before every regional. It usually lasts around anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. I have one that I just started. I literally just got off of the first boot camp call for prepping for Lille and Atlanta. It works. It does a lot of stuff. like to think I'm a fairly decent coach, and if you don't, obviously every coach is going to say that or think that, but I also have coached people like someone that made top 4 in the most recent regional was someone that was played in their very first ever regional. This is their first card game. They took my boot camp and did a lot of one-on-one sessions with me, and I did that. I mean, I'm not going to take credit for their top 4. Obviously, they were an amazing player and played amazingly. And then in Bologna, the person that got best of Jinx actually did a couple of sessions with me about a week before that regional, and then they showed up with Jinx with the Miracle Shell because I'm a pretty good Miracle teacher, and then they went ahead and got the best of Jinx there as well.
Awesome. Well, Mo, very quickly, where can we find your Metafy? Do you have a Twitter or a YouTube channel that we can check out your stuff at?
Yeah, everything is going to be at Mr. Emotional, I believe. So I actually think I think that's not true. I think everything is emotional except for my Twitter. So the Twitter is Mr. Emotional, and then emotional is spelled like MOE, like the name. And then the YouTube and the Metafy are all just emotional. So it's youtube.com/emotional and then metafy.gg/@emotional. All of that fun stuff there. And then I have a Discord, but I don't know how to find Discord link, so it'll be attached to all that as well. But yeah.
Great. Yeah, we'll have everything in the description below for you guys. So if you like the Lucian deck tech video and you want to see more of Emotional, please go click on those links for me. It'll help him out. And yeah, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.